Today I wanted to do something a little bit different, talk about a multiplayer shooter. And why? Well, I don't feel like I talk about these games enough, and they're a pretty big part of my gaming heritage, if that's even the right word.
I mean, with Doom and Overwatch being my favourite games of 2016, it's worth discussing my love for the classic first-person shooters of yesteryear. And so, to broaden my video making horizons and to bring something a little bit different to the table than the usual fare, let's talk about 1999's Unreal Tournament, sometimes referred to as UT99.
This isn't exactly going to be a review, I'm a bit too biased for that, so it's more of a love letter, I guess. I couldn't think of a better term.
Now, Unreal Tournament is a game that I have very fond memories of. It's a game based on your skill. Just that, pure skill. No character has any specific advantage, no specific stats or attributes. Every player in the match has a level playing field with a wonderfully varied arsenal of weapons and equipment to master. To start things off, let's begin with a bit of background. How did this game come about? Unreal Tournament is a spin-off of Epic Games' Unreal, a 1998 single-player shooter which showed off the fancy new Unreal Engine. And at the time, this game was mind-blowingly good-looking, to the point where Next Generation magazine went as far as to put it on a front cover and say, yes, this is an actual PC game screenshot.
It was a big deal back then, can you blame them?
If you know a thing or two about games, chances are you might have heard of this engine, because this engine and its successors have been used in many different games in the past 2 decades. The development of Unreal Tournament actually started out as an expansion pack for the original single-player title, since Epic felt that the multiplayer was the thing that they needed to improve on for Unreal. This expansion project grew rapidly in size to the point where it eventually became Unreal Tournament, a full, standalone project. Then they squeezed it out a month prior to Quake 3 in November of 1999, as Epic were worried that if Quake 3 came out first, Unreal Tournament wouldn't get any love.
And let's be honest, Quake 3 did become a titan of the genre, being one of the most definitive arena shooters for years to come.
Anyhow, when you boot up Unreal Tournament, it begins by explaining the general plot, which takes place during a war between the humans and the Scar, the alien villains from Unreal. In order to finance this war, consensual murder was legalized and capitalized upon by the Leandri Mining Corporation as a form of sport. And you know, this is a pretty basic expository excuse for people to murder each other, but I guess it works as a story. It's basic enough, tells you what you need to, and people get to kill each other.
Hey, works for me, that's all I need to know.
Anyway, let's have a look at how the game plays. On the surface, it's a basic first-person shooter. You run, you shoot, you kill, you get points. Simple. But there's so much more to it than that. And you'd be doing the game a disservice if that's all you boiled it down to. The way the player moves in Unreal is nimble and quick. You're able to bunny hop around and use dodges to get out of danger. Although I would suggest being careful with dodges and maps where you can fall. It's easy to just dodge accidentally off a cliff and die. Although this might just be me. The game gives you a load of different characters to play as, but these characters are simply cosmetic. Like I said before, no specific stats. So this standard blokey bloke is no more powerful than a gnarly warcow. And yes, you can play as a gnarly warcow.
Come on, we all love the gnarly warcow.
But there are plenty of options, even some robotic ones. One thing I do want to talk about is all the different weapons available in this game. There are quite a few, and a lot of them are pretty unique to this universe. Not only that, they each have their own quirks and can be used in more than one way to suit your playstyle, which is great.
And I'm going to give you a basic run through of every single one of them. Every single quirk, every single alternate fire, so let's get started.
Starting with the basic close quarters weapon, this one is different to any other melee weapon you'll see in an FPS game. Instead of a knife or your fists, you have an impact hammer. A pressurized hammer that can pound your foes into meaty chunks. I don't know the exact science, but hey, if it works. And yeah, getting close to someone with this can be absolutely devastating. The only downside is that the people you're playing against might have guns. In fact, they usually do.
And might I add, being chased by this thing? Pretty scary. It's loud and angry.
The impact hammer can also be used as a method of jumping to gain a bit of extra dexterity in a match. I've actually seen bots use this feature as well, so I'm pretty sure it's an intended use. So then we move on to our other starter weapon, the Enforcer. A heavy duty pistol that can be fired slowly with precision or quickly but with more spread. The Enforcer is also the only weapon that you're able to dual wield, and that affects both methods of fire. Personally, I love going up to people and quickly firing both pistols. It's a surprisingly effective way to kill people. Moving along, we have the Bio Rifle, a stout little weapon that fires out balls of slime that explode. It can be a little bit tricky to use, but it can be devastating in the right hands.
And the right hands aren't my hands. I mess with this thing a lot, so I just sit back and enjoy all the noises it makes. You just spat everywhere. That's my impression of the Bio Rifle.
The real draw of the bio rifle for me is the alternate fire that charges up a large slime ball that explodes into more smaller slime balls. The reason I love this alternate fire is a fully charged direct hit is pretty much an instant kill. It's incredibly powerful, but also maybe a little bit dangerous towards yourself.
You think you can kill me with just some snot, Connor?
The fourth weapon on the roster is the ASMD shock rifle. Now this one is a fan favourite for various reasons. The primary fire of this energy based rifle fires out a bluish purple laser that has no fall off. Amazingly accurate and very deadly, this is one of the weapons you'll want to grab when you see it. It can get you out of various scrapes if you've got good aim. The secondary fire of this weapon releases an energy ball that is slow moving but pretty strong, and I know what you might be thinking, the primary fire is better. And well, yeah, it is, but the best part is you can use these two fires together.
I've got two words: shock and combo.
Firing out a ball and shooting it with a beam creates a shock combo, a huge purple explosion of death. Sure, you've got to be accurate, but it's an incredibly satisfying combo to pull off, and it really adds a skill curve to the weapon. You gotta respect the shock rifle. The fifth weapon is the pulse rifle, not one of my favourites, but it does have some fun uses. The primary fire is a lot like the plasma gun from Doom, fast firing energy projectiles with some fairly decent damage. I personally prefer the alternate attack though, which fires a limited beam similar to the lightning gun in Quake. It has some distance fall off, but it can be used to nab some great kill streaks. So yeah, this one is fun, but perhaps not the best weapon.
The pulse gun probably has its fans though, so if I don't address this now, I reckon someone in the comments will be like, what are you talking about? This weapon's god tier. Uninstall the game. I'm sorry, okay?
Number 6 on the list is the Ripper, a projectile based weapon that fires razor sharp discs that bounce off walls. They can even decapitate. I find them a little tricky to use, but they are pretty fun. The secondary disc explodes on impact, and I find myself doing much better with that attack.
Spoiler alert, it's because I can't aim, and I prefer to use splash damage, because it's easy to use. Yeah, I'm one of those people.
Anyway, on to the 7th weapon, the minigun. There's nothing too unique about this, it's just a basic minigun, and it works quite similarly to the Enforcer in that you can fire normally, or fire quickly with a penalty to accuracy. It is a fierce and dependable weapon though, so don't overlook it, even if it is par for the course. Next up we have my personal favourite and one of the deadliest weapons of all, the flak cannon. I might even say this one's a little too good, I don't know. The primary fire lets out a load of highly damaging shrapnel that completely shreds enemies very quickly, and the secondary fire is a ball that explodes into shrapnel. This weapon is so much fun and so powerful. I always feel like whoever has the flak cannon has the upper hand in a fight, so look for this one when you can. It's also a really good way to train your eye to projectiles. Number 9 is the fundamental favourite, the rocket launcher, with a few twists on the formula. Holding down left click charges your attack, and allows you to fire up to 5 rockets if you like.
If you hit someone with multiple rockets, it pretty much guarantees that they're going to be, you know, painting the walls.
It also has an alternate grenade attack that can be charged as well. I prefer the rockets, but these definitely have their uses. And in case that wasn't good enough, there's also a way to lock on. Moving on, we have the sniper rifle. Now, I'm pretty sure this thing is incredibly lenient because I get so many headshots with this thing.
Headshot, double kill, multi-ultra kill, rampage, monster kill, monster kill.
Yeah, it can zoom, but you may as well rush it about popping heads off like it's nobody's business. No scope needed. So yeah, this sniper rifle is a lot of fun, and definitely one that I always reach for. Of course, we also have the Redeemer, which isn't as forgiving as the name suggests. It also doesn't work very well with my selected FOV. The Redeemer is pretty much a miniature nuclear blast. You can basically just delete a lot of people off the playing field with this thing, even yourself. So yeah, be careful. Also, the secondary fire allows you to guide the missiles yourself. And one final weapon I'd like to mention is the Translocator, a personal teleporter that you can even use to telefrag enemies. For the uninitiated, a telefrag is how some games tackle the possible issues of players becoming stuck inside each other when using teleports. You can see this feature in plenty of other titles, right up to Team Fortress 2.
Oh no. Ah! What the bloody hell just happened? Holy dooly!
Anyway, back to Unreal Tournament. There are some other weapons to mention, but they're either part of mutators or expansions for the Game of the Year edition.
So now that we've looked at the weapons, let's have a look at the game modes that are on offer.
Of course, we have the classic deathmatch types you'd expect from a game like this, as well as the iconic Capture the Flag, a game mode which keeps poking its head into other games where it doesn't work as well. thinking about one TF2 map in particular.
Listen, okay, if you like 2-Fort, then fundamentally, you're a bad person. I don't make the rules, that's just how it is.
Anyway, I keep getting sidetracked. Aside from those game types, there's also a game mode called Domination, which is sort of like a control points mode, but you have to hold different areas for as long as possible to get a specific number of points before the enemy team does. I definitely enjoy this mode, but I prefer it when it doesn't last too long. 200 points is way too high. There's also a mode called Assault, which is an interesting game type where you either attack or defend different objectives from your foes. I don't really play a lot of Assault, it feels a little too slow in pace for me. Too many choke points and such. I'm sure some people like it, it's just not for me.
So now, let's have a quick word about the single player.
The main single player mode in Unreal Tournament is a ladder to climb with a bunch of basic matches. There's no narrative other than you kill good, you move on, and that's ideal really. There are different ladders for different modes that get unlocked as you play, and beating these modes gives you trophies for your Hall of Champions. But there's only one champion, and it's you. The final segment of the ladder is a battle with Zan Krieger on Hyperblast, and Zan is the most badass green robot you'll ever see.
Oh, sorry Lewa. Looks like you're out to dry on this one.
You are inferior.
Yeah, Zan the Man is a pretty big challenge to fight, perhaps a little bit frustrating at times, but I mean it is a 1v1, and the final battle. This guy's gonna be hard. Anyhow, let's talk about the multiplayer some more. The multiplayer allows you to customize plenty of aspects of the game. Maps, weapons, mutators, bots, difficulty, and so on. All of this adds so much to replayability, especially with the huge variety of maps there are in this game. Each one has a vastly different style and feels totally unique.
Some maps are obviously better than others, but none of them are specifically terrible.
And many of these maps have become legendary arenas for PC gamers. I mean, who doesn't remember Deck 16, or the beautiful but far too open Facing Worlds, or the compact and hectic Fractal, which loops back on itself. And those three are just the tip of the iceberg here as well. Each map has an interesting quirk to it. To me, so many maps here are iconic and represent the best of the best in first-person shooter arenas. In a lot of them, there are plenty of hazards and environmental things to mess around with too. You've got places to fall from, pressure chambers to trap enemies in, lava pits, slime pits, electric fields, and so on. And the mutators add plenty of replayability too. Instagib, for instance, is a classic mode that has entire games named after it now. I've also neglected to mention the various power-ups in this game.
This game is just packed with so much that it's easy to forget something and take it for granted.
You've got a damage amplifier with the trademark purple does more damage of the late 90s, you've got invisibility, jumping boots, shield belts, and so on. There's plenty of variety of these across all the maps, and knowing where all of these things are can give you one hell of an edge. And what else can I mention? Well, how about the sheer charm of it all? Unreal Tournament has this attitude to it that really makes it perfect for a late 90s game. And it's really apparent in the taunts. You can pretty much just badmouth everyone and it's great.
I'm sorry, did I blow your head apart?
And you can also do whatever the hell's going on here. I don't know.
If you want to completely tilt someone in a match, use that Morse. I'm fairly certain it'll work.
There's still more to talk about here, so bear with me. I just want to have a word about the music of this game. In short, it's fantastic. I love it, and it's one of my favourite game soundtracks.
And why is that, you may ask? 2 words. Mon Tracker.
Mon Tracker, or just Tracker, is a way of making music that was especially popular in the late 80s and throughout the 90s. The sequences in Mon Tracker music are based on a series of letters, numbers, and hexadecimal digits. You have different intervals for these for each instrument used in a song, and they end up having a distinctive sound to them as well. I'm paraphrasing here because I don't fully understand the technical stuff behind it, but I think I've got it about right. Chances are you've heard a song that was made this way. I mean, Deus Ex and Jazz Jackrabbit are both games that had tracker artists as their composers, as well as Unreal Tournament. The same tracker artists are actually shared across a lot of these games. Andrew Sager, Dan Garape, Michiel van den Bos, and Alexander Brandon. Also, fun fact about Alexander Brandon, he's this guy from Skyrim. Crazy, right? There's also Tero Kostamar, Kai-Erik Kompa, and Peter Hajba.
You know, I'm starting to think that having an unusual name makes you better at making tracker music. That must be how it works.
But yeah, these 7 maestros masterminded the music of Unreal Tournament, and god, it's fantastic, and perfect for the feel of the game. My personal favourites include Foregone Destruction, which plays on Face, Face 2, Eternal Cave, Dargy 16, Space Nox, and Malevolence. Into the Darkness, which I believe only plays on Stalwart and Stalwart XL. And of course the classic Mechanism 8, which plays on Fractal, High Speed, Zito, Pyramid and Garden. This is just scratching the surface of the great tracks though. There isn't a bad track in the game soundtrack at all, and all of them have something to offer while you deathmatch or play whatever game mode you want to play.
And with all this out of the way, I'm just going to ask myself one thing.
Does my undying love for Unreal Tournament mean I'm any good at it? Well, maybe, maybe not. I'm okay at it, I guess.
But really, more than anything else, it's just a fun game. Even not being good at it can be fun.
There's a reason I always come back to it year after year. Unreal Tournament is one of my favourite games of all time for these reasons and more. If I'm ever at a LAN party, this is the one that consistently gets cracked out to play. It is tons of fun with friends, even if them using the flat cannon over and over can get a little bit annoying. Ben. Okay, but seriously, I adore this game, and I have done for years. It's a very challenging and skill-based FPS that really tests your skills, and allows you to refine your aiming and predicting. I probably wouldn't be nearly as good at games like Overwatch if this game hadn't been one of my childhood classics. As for the sequels, well, they're good too, 2004 specifically, but for me, personally, nothing beats the original.
So that's my love letter to Unreal Tournament. A game I'll always love and a game I'll always come back to. It's pretty good. And what are your thoughts on Unreal Tournament? Did you play it as a kid? Did you play it as an adult? Have you never played it? Share the Unreal love in the comments below. I have no idea how to end videos, and this seems like a way that maybe works.